Hey everybody, welcome to another Redstone video. Today I'm going to show you two simple and efficient witch farms that work in Minecraft 1.14. Unfortunately I have to start the video by informing you that the efficiency of one of the standard witch farm designs was pretty much cut in half. The soul sand shifting floor design is still working, but there's a problem now that witches no longer spawn on soul sand. You can see this is still working, but yeah, here's the problem. If we switch to nighttime, nothing spawns on soul sand anymore. So ever since the feature got added that you can place redstone dust on glass and also similar blocks, some of the old mob spawning rules got changed. For example, mobs can now spawn on top trapdoors, on TNT, shulker boxes, chorus flower, pistons, and also sea lanterns and glowstone. So of course it's interesting for slime farms and of course for nether mobs. There are still some blocks that are spawn proof, for example non-full blocks like slabs and the path block, and also some blocks with a solid surface like leaves, glass as you can see, ice blocks which only allow polar bears to spawn on top of it, and 8 snow layers as well. So now I'm gonna show you two working witch farms for Minecraft 1.14 that are clock based, which makes the witch farm quite simple. The first one is the upward shifting floor witch farm. This design was already shown on my channel a few years ago. It still works. I only adjusted it slightly. Timing's got a bit sharper, and also the redstone here got changed a bit. Now we're using a hopper clock since hopper duping got fixed in 1.13. So we're no longer using a comparator clock. Alright, yeah, the farm works like before. Witches spawn on the slime blocks and the normal blocks. Then we push up. The feet of the witches would now glitch into those blocks and they would start falling through. And then we lower the floor again. And then we would end up on the lower layer, of course. We do that for all 3 layers. And then we can kill the witches either by fall damage or in case you don't want to dig down and make a spawn-proof area around that. You can also use similar mechanics like entity cramming to kill the witches. I will just link my video to the 1.12 witch farm. There you can also see the alternatives, what you can do instead of killing them with fall damage. And here's the second witch farm design, which makes good use of the new 1.14 feature that mobs are now able to spawn on trapdoors. The idea for this farm was by doublemoses, who tweeted a demo witch farm to me. And we later improved the design a little bit to make it more efficient. So this is actually not really a shifting floor farm anymore. We still shift the floors back and forth, but the mobs don't glitch through. They actually fall through the open trapdoors. So this is basically all intended. So in case a witch would spawn on an observer, we shift the floor one over. The observer would activate because it's getting moved, and would then open the trapdoor. In case a witch would spawn on a trapdoor initially, we shift back and forth and open the trapdoor once more. A slight improvement to the doublemoses design was made by orientating the observers towards the middle instead of lining them up facing towards one side. This prevents double triggering of the trapdoors, during which, of course, no witch can spawn. So as you can see, all the observers at most get activated once. I also did quite some testing in order to determine the rates of both farms. I tested the observer-based shifting floor farm for 24 hours twice. I tested the clock with 8 items and also with 16 items. During both tests, at the end, I got rates of 3,430 drops per hour. Of course, having a slower clock is beneficial, since the lag would be reduced slightly. So I was able to run this farm at about 400 TPS, so it shouldn't matter that much. The slime block upward shifting floor farm design was actually tested by me for 72 hours, and in the end I got 3,300 drops per hour, so it's not quite as efficient as the observer based one. There's one more thing, you can probably also make a tripwire based detection system, which in theory should even yield high rates, but unfortunately I didn't have time yet to design a farm, but I might do that within the next week. Then there's one more thing, I'm not quite sure if it's intended that witches can spawn on trapdoors since they couldn't do that in previous versions, And I'm also not quite sure if it's intended that they can't spawn on soul sand blocks, since they could do that in previous versions. So there is a chance that this farm might get broken if we would get the old spawning behavior back. So in case you want to build a witch farm, we gotta do the usual, find a witch hut, and then also mark out the spawning layers. And this actually changed, while in older versions the lowest level for the witch farm was usually at Y63. If you do the looking at, it's now at Y62. Next one Y65 and Y69. But there's still the bug in the game if, because of terrain generation, the witch hut generates higher, then the spawning layers will be messed up. So you need to make sure you find a witch hut where basically the platform level would be at Y64, and then you're fine. And if you've got a witch hut like that, then yeah, the lowest layer would be Y62, 65 and 68. Here from top we can also see the footprint of the farm, so in total it's 9 blocks long and 7 blocks wide. And now I'm gonna show you how you can build the Trapdoor observer based farm. So this would be the basic spawning layer. The type of trapdoor doesn't matter. You could use iron, which is the advantage that you can't accidentally click it, but wooden trapdoors would be fine as well. It's also important how you place the trapdoors, so they need to basically open in the same direction as the trapdoors above. So here you want to place trapdoors aligned with the side of the block. Then here you can also place the next trapdoors against, and you want to manually open all of those and fill in the complete spawning layer with trapdoors. And yeah, it's important that those trapdoors would open to the same side, so the witch can't stand on the edge of the trapdoor. Alright, so just need to completely fill this up. And here's the last one. Also fill in the rest. So in the end it should look like this. I also added some pistons here on the side. They directly are adjacent to the observers. And of course on the other side we need a one wide gap. Next you need to put downwards facing observers on top of each piston on both sides, and then put activator or powered rail on top of those observers. Next you also want to build the second and third layer, which is identical to the lowest one. For one difference, on the lowest and the second layer, here we have a repeater on 2 ticks, and we have this on both sides. So now we're going to build up the clock circuit and the rest of the wiring. So here on the right, we're going to place down observer pointing into those rails, then another observer on the side, then we want to get some slabs, and power this side by powering this block here. Here we're going to place down more rails. Okay, then in front of this observer, we're going to place down another trapdoor. Now we can add the hopper clock. So here I'm gonna add a redstone torch, and then the usual hopper clock. So get 2 comparators, make them power blocks, redstone dust on top. Then pair of hoppers facing into each other. Here on top the sticky pistons and a redstone block. Okay, then get a lever. Power this, so this turns off the clock circuit, and then you can put in 16 items into the hopper. Alright, then we can continue with the wiring. So here we need to take an output from this observer, and then just gonna go down like this. Also do it here. And on the other side as well. So in case you decide to make a witch farm with a drop chute where you kill the witch's fall damage, you have to go down 31 blocks in total. So from this layer here, which is 1 block under the spawning floor, you need to place down 31 blocks. And then here you could have hoppers with carpet on top. The carpet makes the hopper spawn proof, of course. But as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, you can also, for example, kill the witches by anti-cramming. In the video description, I also show how to do that, which has the advantage that you don't need to light up any caves around the witch farm, and only move a minimal amount of blocks in order to get ideal witch farm spawning conditions. So the drop chute here at the bottom completely encases the 7x9, so like this. You also want to place down some glass blocks here on the side to make sure that the witches don't fall out. And now we also have to put a roof on top of the witch farm, which has two purposes. First, of course, to reduce the light level, so we got absolute darkness, scarlet level 0 inside of the witch farm, so the witches could spawn at the highest rate. And the second purpose is also to get some extra spawn attempts. But this has changed in Minecraft 1.14. So one of the changes is that spawn attempts from outside of a chunk basically will never migrate to another chunk. There is a check now. If it's not in the same chunk, it won't spawn a mob. So it's basically only important what you would do around the witch farm in this direction. The way witch huts generate is they would always sit in the corner of a chunk. So here you can see the 7x9 platform aligned with the chunk here. And the only thing that matters is what happens in this chunk. So technically it would actually be an ever so slight improvement if you place down a slab here, just noticed. But it really doesn't matter much. And what you also notice here is that I lowered the roof of the witch farm a bit. So the spawn attempts, instead of being spread between 0 and 70, they're now spread between 0 and 68. So this is ever so slightly improvement, but it's not really necessary. It's also fine if you just extend the roof like this, you won't notice much of a difference anyway. But yeah, just wanted to mention that in case you want to make the farm a bit more efficient, but it really doesn't matter. So here I just extended the roof out at the same height. So what you can do from each corner point of the 7x9 platform, you go out 15 blocks and then connect the ends and fill in also all the blocks between, and then you make sure you have light level 0 on all the spawning spaces. In case you have the clock in between and maybe you need to bridge over it or actually build it on top of the roof, which also ever so slightly decreases the rates. So it would be even better if you maybe, instead of doing it like that, you can maybe also place the clock below the witch farm and then just go up with some observers and send the signal up. So this will also be a very slight improvement for the rates. Or I actually built the clock on the side, which is outside of that chunk. This will also be a possibility, of course. But in the end, it doesn't matter much. In case you're interested in building the slime block witch farm, which is not quite as efficient as the other one, I already made a tutorial for that one, which needs to be slightly adjusted. In case the observer trapdoor farm gets broken at some point, I'm gonna make an updated tutorial for this one here. But I can maybe go through the most important points. Of course, you can also just check the world download. So what didn't change at all was the spawning platforms compared to the older version. So we got pistons with slime blocks on alternating sides. In the middle, we got a normal row of blocks. And the wiring is pretty similar, but slightly quicker now. So here is again normal hopper clock. 16 items in there, and what we did here is we sent 2 signals into the system like this. So here we actually got a short pulse that quickly makes the sticky pistons drop their blocks, and then we retract everything again. Then between the layers we got now 5 ticks, redstone ticks of delay instead of 6, which we had before, and we just chain it up like that. It's repeaters on 1, so this is 1 repeater and 4 observers, also 5 ticks of delay. The other side just, looks similar, but a bit mirrored. And that's pretty much it. In case you really want to build this one here, check the world download. Maybe one thing that's noteworthy is, or is important for the roof, is that, I can't go into spectator mode quickly do that, is that you have full blocks here at the top. This would prevent spider spawning when the shifting floors are moved up. So by having full blocks on top, you prevent spider spawning. Slabs, you would get some spider spawning. Also here those leaves on the side prevent spider spawning. And the leaves here will prevent the witches would climb out, of course. Okay, the lower layers look quite similar. Under the pistons and between, also got leaves that the slime blocks don't stick to. So that's it for this video. Thanks a lot for watching. See you in the next one. Bye bye.